All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're accessing this. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about mate selection. So, why do we choose that person to love? Now, these are some biological perspectives. And first, we'll go over for heterosexual individuals. For males, they're looking for young females because it's a survival of the species instinct. So young females are at peak childbearing years. All right. Remember, this is the biological perspective. Not saying that this is the actual fact, but this is something that people have been talking about for a long time. And for females, they're looking for males who can ensure the survival of the family group. And when we look at chemistry, it's about the senses that guide us in being drawn to someone else and actual chemistry with pheromones and things like that. Here are some biological perspectives for gay and lesbian individuals. For males, also, they're looking for virility and stamina, those who appear physically healthy. And for females, looking for other females who can join to create a family. And when we look at chemistry, the senses, it's no different than being heterosexual. Really, it's no different for anyone. All right. So you might be omnisexual or pansexual. It all kind of works the same way with human beings. So, what males and females want, continuing the biology and evolutionary perspectives. Males value physical characteristics in females, such as smooth skin, a small waist to hip ratio, and a youthful appearance. All right. A big part of that is about this kind of signal in the brain that they're going to be able to bear lots of children. It has been argued that such traits are desirable because they signal, like I said, fertility, all right, and the ability to produce and carry on the human race. Females value physical characteristics in males, such as height, muscularity, and broad shoulders, and personality characteristics such as power, ascendance, and dominance, all right, rising to the top and taking control, things like that. It has been argued that such traits are desirable because they signal the ability to provide resources and protection. However, such traits could also signal the ability to provide like I said, protection from a variety of threats, including sexual predators. But on the flip side, it's also something that's behind abusive behavior. All right. So people who are abusers also do the same thing. All right. When it comes to being possessive, being physically abusive, being physically controlling, and things like that. And we'll talk about that. So, once again, why do we choose that person to love? We look at the psychological perspective. So, in the psychological perspective, they're looking at the primal motivators of nurture, to be nurtured. So, taking care of people, the want, the desire to be taken care of. Of course, sexual activity. Some people, it's about fleeing from something like maybe a bad family or a bad partner or ex or something like that. Or even, a bad lifestyle. They just don't like their life and they want to flee and create a brand new lifestyle. And also a desire to submit to someone else. So a lot of people want to kind of give up a lot of the decision making and responsibilities to someone else and submit to them so that way they don't have to worry about that stuff. When we look at personality and cultural influences, we find that studies show that people tend to select mates who are similar to themselves with respect to a variety of demographic characteristics. These characteristics include, but are not limited to, age, race, religion, nationality, education, and income. This is called marital homogamy, or like marrying like. All right, we see it all the time. They do love to say that opposites attract, but often when people get together and they become bonded and married and they want to have children, there's a lot more homogamy than opposites. We also yearn for our wholeness. All right, so there's this kind of message that we get that if we find the right person, we will become whole. We often seek those that resemble our original caregivers. All right, and that's, for good or bad. So if we have amazing caregivers and we see really good examples of how you have healthy relationships, we're going to be looking for that in partners, that they have some of those skills, some of the traits, some of the characteristics, because we've seen it work. And we know what to expect, and we're like, okay, those ingredients are the ingredients I'm looking for because I know those are good ingredients. But on the flip side, all right, when people grow up in abusive households and they have neglectful parents, their parents are always fighting and possessive. Sometimes they're looking for someone who are going to replicate that because that's all they know. That's what they're comfortable with. Not that it's healthy, but they don't know anything else. We also seek those that will compensate for the parts of ourselves that we aren't as strong in. All right. And I'll give myself it as an example. Before meeting my now partner of almost 30 years, I was much more reserved, much more introverted. I mean, I could go out and speak in front of people and be a leader, but I really didn't like social interactions or social groups. And my partner is the exact opposite. And so together we kind of bring out the best of each other and we fill in those spots that we didn't have easy access to. So for me, it's being social, and she brings me out and gets to me to be more social. And for her, I bring her kind of within. And we do mindful techniques, we do meditation, we'll do long walks in silence in the woods and things like that. And both of those things we need to balance ourselves out. So let's talk about the initial universal language of love. All right. So this is, once again, a lot of this is programmed because I don't believe that anyone is incomplete. All right. We are whole, perfect, beautiful as we are. You are as you are. All right. We don't need someone. It's great having someone, but they're not going to complete us. We are complete already. All right. So we're trying to find people that just help us both, reciprocal kind of connection where we both bring each other up. So we're, as united, we're greater than the sum of the parts, that type of stuff. So, like I said, messages, as we're drawn to be whole again, with messages like "you complete me," this recognition of, I know we just met, but somehow I feel like I already know you, maybe from a past life or something like that. This sense of timelessness, like I can't remember when I didn't know you. It feels like we've been together forever, like lifetimes of being together in some way. That reunification of I feel whole finally, and necessity. I can't live if living is without you. So here's the initial fantasy of when we get together. All right. So first, of course, falling in love is wonderful. And you're also being flooded with endorphins. All right. So you're really high on your own drugs, your own chemistry. So the less we know about a person, the more we fill in the blanks. And that's when they talk about having those rose tinted glasses. It's hard for us to see all the negatives when we're super high on chemistry with that person and we're in love or we're in lust. So when people are like, hey, have you noticed this about the person? We're like, you just don't want me to be happy. And, it's really hard to listen to people when you're drugged on love. Getting to know someone is exciting. It's brand new. It's novel. It's one of the things that really kind of makes humans feel like they're really living. And we often put our best foot forward, as they do with us. All right. So we're showing in the beginning the best representative of who we think we should be or who they might want. And they're doing the same. We also may discover parts of ourselves that we may not have explored before. So when we meet partners, especially in those opposites attract, we get to explore parts of ourselves that never would have been accessed if we didn't have this connection with another person that represents a lot of those hidden parts. Here are some typical phases of relationships. We have attraction. So you're physically attracted, emotionally, spiritually. Then you start bonding and you start to feel comfort with that person. But, once you start feeling a little too comfortable, then doubt starts to creep in. And you start wondering, okay, do I really want to be with this person? Is this the person? Is this my person? And that leads to the fork in the road to true commitment. All right. So we either run or, we sabotage the relationship, or we say, okay, we're definitely going to bring this to the next level. And when we commit, we start looking for and establishing common beliefs. We start to look at the values. What values do we share? What goals do we share? Things like that. And then comes the more difficult but very necessary stage of maintaining our commitment. Figuring out how to keep that spark alive, to keep that flame growing. All right. And that's something that no one knows innately or by birth. We actually have to learn it. And it's an absolutely necessary skill for being in good relationships. But what comes after that initial phase? Right? So, talking about maintaining the commitment, what does it actually look like? So, what do we expect after we become committed? And why do movies stop after someone falls in love? Why does it always stop at a certain point and we don't see anything afterwards? And how does that affect the way we navigate our relationships and the expectations that we have of others? We do expect our partner to understand our expectations of a relationship. All right. It isn't often reciprocal. It's like, yes, you must do it the way I want, but I don't know if I want to do it the way you want. So we use our history, and most of our history comes from our childhood relational experiences, watching our parents navigate their relationship with one another. And then also our individual beliefs, our values, how we practice spirituality or what religion we're a part of, and then our sense of morality all comes into play. So like I say, the process, we have that attraction, we build rapport, we have mutual self-disclosure, there's some empathy for each other, we see if we fit as far as all of our roles, and then before we become committed, something starts to change. What changes when I become we? So in your experience, either personally or vicariously through others, what things change in relationships when casual dating transitions into a committed relationship? So what changes? Like, think about the friends you get to have. What are the rules that pop up that you've heard? And think about, where did you get these rules? How do you have these expectations? Did they come from your parents? Probably. Magazine articles, personal experience, you name it. In relationships, who has the most success? All right, in all the relationships. Now, a huge key is social awareness. It actually makes all the difference. So, knowing yourself, understanding how your behavior affects yourself and others, and taking responsibility for your actions. So basically, it's knowing your own ish. Really, in all my classes, self-awareness is a cornerstone. I want people to develop healthy relationships that last with people. Really important to have emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, or EI, is often measured as emotional intelligence quotients, or EQ. And this describes an ability, capacity, or skill to perceive, assess, and manage one's own emotions, of others, and of groups. Honorable relationships. All right, there's quite a few things that you need to do, need to expect or don't expect to create lasting honorable relationships. And here are some of them. Be conscious. So create a sense of what you are looking for. All right, not just out of life, but out of a partner. All right, and out of yourself. Be truthful. Drop the drama, forget the soap opera. Articulate what is going on. Your partner is not a mind reader, unless they are actually a mind reader, but most people aren't. So you actually have to tell the person what you need and what you expect. You can't expect them to just figure it out, all right? Because that never happens. Like 99.99% of the time, it does not happen. So don't expect it. Don't expect to change someone, all right? They are who they are. So if you're one of the people like, oh, I like this person a lot, I'm going to work on them, because if they were just a little bit better in this place and doing that, then they'd be the perfect partner. That's a setup for failure. Don't do it. Don't try to force others to love you by buying them lots of stuff, by giving them lots of physical intimacy, whatever it is. Don't try to force. If it doesn't happen naturally, it's not healthy. All right? Be aware of where the other person is developmentally in life. All right. So when people have like big age gaps, or there's cognitive differences, right? They're going to be very different. So if you have a 10-year age gap, 15-year age gap, 20-year age gap, when you look at human development and what people have to go through, the Erikson stages, all right? Someone might be like 2 stages ahead of the other person. They cannot expect that person to be where they're at. They have to go through those stages on their own. All right. So you can't expect someone to be where you are or to like regress or advance beyond their ability to do it naturally. Understand what goes around comes around. We're talking about karma. All right. So if you put a lot of negative energy out of there, it's going to come back to you. So if you're abusive, you say nasty things, you talk crap about your partner behind their back, it will come back to you. I promise you. So always think about that. What you put out will come back, usually in threes. That's at least what I understand, what I've experienced in my life. And then also close your exits. Turn off all your back burners. And so what am I talking about with back burners? I think you know what I'm talking about. So when you're dating someone, all right, and you're pretty serious with them, but you also kind of are leading on a few other people in the background, you're breadcrumbing them, you might throw a couple love grenades at them every now and then, really just to keep them on the hook, just in case this relationship that you're in right now doesn't work out. Then you can just turn up the heat and just grab one of the other people, all right? So first of all, that's not really nice. Not only to the partner that you're with in the present, but all the people that really care about you that you're basically leading on just to use them as a backup. All right, so make sure you close your exits.